Oops, sorry about that. Another muted mic, just like on Monday. Sorry about that. Those who were watching on Monday. Now, welcome to Friday Facts. As the title said, it's about the Stonewall riots. Now, the why it happens is a long story. It begins with the era or the mentality of the era in 1950s, or shall we say post World War II mentality. Last autumn I had an interview with lovely Susan Brewer regarding this very same topic, and I am trying to my point here is last time I had this topic on my channel, it was more of a talk show kind of thing that I had with Susan, and more of an interview and having her memories on record. Now I would, to get a bit of a context as to why it happens, I'd like to give you a little look. Hang on, I'll just because I'm a stupid, so I'll have to get it a bit more complicated way, like this, like so. Just please let me know in the chat, those watching live, if the sound is okay. If you can hear the sound, just pop me a ding in the chat. If you can or cannot, just let me know, and I'll put I'll let Susan tell you. This is from last autumn. There's no sound, is it? Is it correct? Right. Let's see how it sounds like this. Is there sound now? Still no sound, damn it. Okay, what Susan is... Okay, I'll do it another way. Okay. There. There we go. And there. Okay. So, okay,
And I can speak frankly, right?
yeah, off you go.
Okay, what little bit I did know about Stonewall was a bunch of queers in New York went nuts and had a big riot, and there was loads of violence. And the general
Is there sound now?
attitude in my environment, and I want everyone to know that I'm speaking strictly from personal experience. Okay,
And that is a point
in
here.
my environment, this just goes to show you, queers are, they're really out there and they're violent and they want to take over your home and they're going to rape and molest your children and all of this. And so I certainly wasn't going to mention to anybody that I had a very strong pull towards other females. I wasn't even going to act on it. So there was super suppression going on there. And then when I finally saw a documentary on Stonewall with some wonderful people who were actually there talking about it in a retrospective way, I realize now, looking back, what an important event that was.
Yeah, so that was Susan telling us a little bit about what her environment was like, what her experiences were like back in the day. And with Susan, we start from the early 1960s. Now, which is kind of in the middle of the kind of period, a bit halfway through the period between World War II and the Stonewall riots. Susan was saying months ago that there was an environment of don't ask, don't tell, which unfortunately in certain institutions in the United States still carries on, as well as around the world. But what now we can go perhaps to what really went down. So early hours of the morning of June 28th, 1969. Stonewall Inn, Greenwich Village, Manhattan, New York City. Two undercover police women and two undercover policemen enter the Stonewall Inn, a bar and nightclub run by the mob, the mafia, and they owned plenty of these sort of, shall we say, minority minority bars, shall we say. The when it comes to anti-LGBT legislation in the US, those laws had been uh, building up, from since the war. There had been, certainly there had been some policies, but anti-queer policies prior to, after between the world wars. But what people who went there, the Stonewall Inn, and were there that night, were gay men, lesbian, trans women, these homeless people, homeless teens, or as they were called, street kids back in the day, who came in from the nearby parks because many of them were gay, and had been thrown out away from their homes. When these police officers, these four, had been observing what was going on inside the Stonewall Inn. They used the payphone in the pub which they had, and to call the precinct. But however, this raid they were about to perform was the second for that week, which was highly unusual because at that time the police officers tended to raid these bars and pubs typically once a month, and usually the bar owners were tipped off of the raid that the police might be coming in. When the police started the raid, the female officers took the women and those presenting as female to the women's bathroom, and they then checked whether they were anatomically female, or at least somewhere along those lines. If you were a cis woman, you were then let go. However, if you had more, all women had to have more than three or more pieces of women's clothes on them. But if they passed these, they go home. Others were arrested. So, and then they had to. The men were men, and then the other women, the women that passed the exams were lined up, and they had to check their ID. The cops checked their ID and then let them go. But within quite shortly, the people in the line started showing discontent on the raid, and this happened. The riots started approximately 1:20 a.m. and it was a Saturday, and around approximately 205 people were in the bar at that time. So patrons were required, the people there were asked to wait about 15 minutes in line, and those who weren't interested went were sent out but didn't leave, and within a reasonably short amount of time, between 100 and 150 people had gathered up. They were passers-by and those who hadn't been actually arrested. But now they started the scaffolding, kind of, and I would like to show you my scaffolding agent. That he is here to calm this stream down. This young man is Bertil. Bertil is a Moomin forefather, and just to let you know, he is here with me tonight, giving order to this live stream. So just so you know, he is watching you in the chat, and Mr. or Mrs. Solar Conch 7 to 8. Good evening to you. Good evening. And yes, indeed, Bertil is cute. Now we shall carry on. They then pursued, and then the crowd outside then just grew. Passers-by and another LGBT plus people started showing up when they heard the rumors. And mind you, a lot of LGBT plus people lived in Greenwich Village. There had been a big minority of LGBT plus people since World War One. So there was quite a number of people then gathering there. And what really one of the things that really was what ignited was that when there was later on bystanders recall there being a woman whose identity is still unknown, but however, Storme de l'Arberie has been identified by some as this woman, including herself as the woman in question. But what really started or sparked the crowd to fight was when she was in cuffed by the police and complained that her cuffs were too tight, and she apparently, according to some, shouted to bystanders that something along the lines of not, why aren't you doing anything, guys? And then the crowd went apparently really angry and violent, and this then led to more violence during that night, and not only the crowd towards the police officers. It was both ways, mostly from the police, that where the violence came from. So it did escalate when more and more police officers came in, and then after this first night, there was another night of big rioting, and this, mind you, this was covered by big press, big news houses, or newspapers rather, such as New York Time, New York Times, New York Post, and the Daily News. So all these articles at the time were somewhat just, shall we say, picking up a written in a really popularizing way um, of getting of selling the newspapers, and there were all kinds of vandalizing going on at the time, graffitis and such, which went on just to declare that, for example, they said support gay power and legalize gay bars. Mind you, gay bars were illegal at that time. They were legalized uh, sometime later. So some years later, it still took. Um, it became much more legal, allowed and legal. But after that, here and there, it became a bit more sudden exhibition of homosexual attention, men and gay couples, lesbian couples, and such. So then they had new leaflets, new sorts of press, and mind you, there was previously the one limited was the company that wasn't allowed. The U.S. Postal Service refused to deliver their magazine, even if wrapped in plastic, or excuse me, brown paper, and they actually the one limited, the company who was publishing this gay magazine, they took the U.S. Postal Service to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court ruled this was in, I think it was late 50s, 58 or so, that 59 or 56, 58 or 59, that the U.S. Supreme Court ruled that the U.S. Postal Service that the one limited must be allowed to deliver their magazines via the U.S. Postal Service, which I think would be, if some sort of postal service, whether it be U.S. Post, the National Postal Service, or some private company, it would be unprecedented even today if another postal company, refused to deliver these papers. But what the aftermath really was that many LGBT plus human rights associations and alliances came into existence all of a sudden. But there was a feeling of urgency, because they felt after the riots, they felt that the urgency to organize themselves into alliances, and so that they would have the group power. So this had a significant significant effect. Even the immediate effect was really, really strong, and that's something that's fascinating. That that such a thing, even back in 1969, Summer of Love, or whatever you want to call it, had such immediate effects on this. Uh, there there were these gay rights demonstrations even as far as Trafalgar Trafalgar Square in London. A few years later, it spread out quite quite quickly, and there was um, organizations such as Gay Liberation Front. They had a huge effect on what we have now, as well as Gay Activist Alliance was a big thing that came out. They were founded in Gay Activist Alliance, founded in December '69, and in the stream with Susan, we talked about gay pride, or the pride movement. Um, for those of you who do not know, the modern pride movement was sparked by the riots in Greenwich Village in New York City in 1969, and there is a Christopher Street Liberation Day on June 28th, 1970. The Christopher Street is the street nearby where the stuff started. It started as an assembly on Christopher Street, and then several different gatherings happened simultaneously in LA, Los Angeles, and Chicago. They were the first gay pride marches in the U.S. history, and perhaps the entire world. The next year, this gay pride movement, this great gay pride events happened across the U.S. In Berlin, London, Paris, West Berlin, Stockholm, all kinds of around the world. Already, mind you, this was already in 1970. We're talking about 1971, when being anything other than cis and straight was a crime, but yet, or at least an illness. Being gay was an illness back in the day. These then grew and grew and grew as the years and decades went by. And now in recent years, okay, prior to the pandemic, we've had across the globe, we've had pride parades of exceeding, I think the biggest ones in Sao Paulo or Rio de Janeiro have been, and perhaps London and such, have been over a million participants. I remember when I came out as trans, and I went to my first Pride parade in Helsinki Pride. We There was maybe 10,000, maybe 9,000, 9,500, but just a few years later, 120,000, I think, 120,000. So it grew by tenfold, which is quite amazing. All this is of the legacy of the Stonewall riots. What this Susan described Stonewall, the Stonewall Inn, as a hole in the wall. It was not. You had to, in order to get in. What you either had to be, you had to be, you, the the bouncer had to know you, or you had to look gay. How the hell do you look gay? Well, some if if anyone knows how do you look, how do you make yourself look gay? If you pass as straight. If you're a guy, you pass usually, typically you pass as gay, as straight, cis straight guy, but looks aren't everything, and you are actually gay. What makes you gay? What makes you look gay? Um, Ray, just let me know in the comments or in the chats what makes you look gay. And I'm not talking about wearing makeup and lip gloss. Just what makes you look gay. But much good came from this. All the pride movements we've had, being gay is illegal. Being gay is legal in most parts of the world. Gay bars are legal, etc. But it hasn't always been dancing on roses. Um, even even though I said things that there was an immediate sort of feel of showing gay affection to one couples, uh, but the raids back in the day didn't as I said, it was still illegal to be gay, and that is one big reason it um, why it took place in the first place, and why it didn't get easy after that. Because um, even going a year from that, in 19 to March 1970, the the NYPD raided a few other bars and after hours bars, or those without a license, um, and 167 people were arrested from, for example, the Snake Pit, and one of them was an Argentinian national who was so afraid of being deported as a homosexual, that he tried to escape from the police precinct later on. Uh, this I won't share. It's quite graphic, but eventually. So, fair warning. It contains it contains mention of loss of life and suicide. So this Argentinian man, a gay man, was so afraid of being deported as a gay person to Argentina that he jumped off the roof of the police precinct from a second story window and passed away. Unfortunately, this is stuff like this still happens almost a year after. So it wasn't, even though there was an elevated spirits of sorts that they got from the initial riots back in June 69. Things didn't get immediately better. We discussed in somewhat, I think in enough detail with Susan, that what has been going on and what the legacy has been, the legacy of the Stonewall riots has been since in this 50 years. It's been 52 now. Yes. So the legacy on the community, it has been, as I mentioned, it's been huge, just absolutely huge. And I cannot describe to you well enough how big of an impact it has had on the community in the years since. I can only imagine what it must have been like for the early activists to go through these grueling times to get what we have now. Of course, it wasn't just them. It wasn't just them but they started all the good we have now. Now, if you'd excuse me, I'll be right back. Hello, we're back. No. So, what a privilege it was to have Susan on. Hopefully, I'll get her back to chat with me about another topic. But to actual topic tonight, what did we get? We I I've gone through the what happened and why. Um, I the behind the question why did it happen? What's the reason? Is so broad that I could go on to talk about it. It's worth. I think it's worth several live streams with several guests because we have to go through decades of um, sort of multi expertise, sort of have several people talk about it at the same who who come from different disciplines of sort of knowledge and age, perhaps. Maybe historians. I hope to get at some point in my on my channel. But the throughout the later years, say going to the 70s, when they the American Psychiatric Association, one of the most important things that in the U.S. they got, that they it was a conference on or a convention on behavior modification, and they got them to stop eventually the electroshock therapy that is actually still used for depression in some cases, but I should mention that it's very, very different and it's very, very safe to what it used to be. And it was that eventually the American Psychiatric Association, because it was used to sort of, because they believed or erroneously believed that sort of that kind of same-sex attraction could be sort of modified away by they was just a type of just behavioral issue, and in towards the end of the year in 1973, the American Psychiatric Association removed homosexuality from their Diagnostic and Statistics Manual, also known as DSM, for you Americans. And also the early activists had been fighting policies, sort of the basic human rights. I mean, human decency. So it has been fundamental in effects the how should I put this? The fight, the literal fight they put up with, gave the cops raiding the Stonewall Inn back in the day. Yeah, I have enormous respect for these people who fought for what they believe is right and what is objectively right. It's still remembered these days. We can see we can see the Stonewall riots, they physically they happened in the summer of '69, but it's still in our lives, really, to see when you go to a pride parade, think, why is this event here? What had to happen um, in order to really really get this pride parade of 100,000, uh, 500,000 people? It's a Stonewall riots. Just a few dozen people. Was it 200 and something, 235 or something? The amount of patrons in the bar. It's humbling, really, really humbling to think. And it's still, I hope I've gone through enough to get you, dear viewers, what you deserve from this live stream. If you feel like you haven't and want, I will have another stream about this topic, most likely at some point. But it will not be on Friday Facts, and it will be a special episode. It will not be. It won't be Friday Facts. It won't be Monday News. It will be a special episode on. I'm not sure whether it be recorded or not. I'm not sure, but likely likely it is. It will be live, and I have many other things I've planned, and I will answer questions. I'd love to have questions from you, dear viewers, right now. I think I've I've been babbling on long enough, and I hope you've had um, you've had enough information that you probably expected to have from this stream. If you haven't, just let me know in the comments section down below. If you're watching this live, just let me know in the chat or in the comment section. I will be checking the comment section or the comment section in Facebook as well, and I would love to recommend. I'd love to recommend you to check. I highly recommend checking the description box. In the description box, there will be links to my Facebook page. Yes, I actually have one. I set it up. I think 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago already. The link is there in the description box. There will be links to my Discord servers. There will be my channels, Discord server, Hades Corner, and then there is an LGBT plus safe space server as well. There will be my channel email address. There'll be links to my playlists, which means season 1 and then season 2 with Monday News, and the first episode of season 2 was not officially Monday News, but it constitutes as one. That's why it's there in and not separately, just on its own as a alone standing video. There will be links to my two other playlists. There will be I made a playlist for season 1. There is a season list for my, as I said, season 2 Monday news, and there's a separate playlist for Friday facts as well. And is there? I'll check. And then there is also, you can find my streaming schedule. There's a link to twitch.tv/HadesCorner/schedule. You can go there and check if you've forgotten. But as the names of my shows suggest, it's Monday news, which comes out on which will start on will be on Monday, starting 9 p.m. UK time, 11 p.m. Finnish time, East European time. So always, even though there will be the switch to summertime and then back to wintertime, the time of day is always the same. 9 p.m. UK time, 11 p.m. Finnish time, East European time on every Monday for Monday news, and the same time, 9 p.m. UK time, 11 p.m. East European time, or Finnish time, 11 p.m. on Friday for Friday facts. This past Monday, this week Monday, the time of day, the time of streaming was different from my schedule that I've given publicly, but this was only due to the fact that so that I could accommodate a guest, because that I could fit Vishanti on for this past Monday. And Vishanti, if you're watching, thanks a lot. Really, it really helped. Just a shout out to Vishanti. Go check the episode of Monday News from this week Monday, where I had Vishanti on, and there will be links in the description box of that episode of Monday News to Vishanti. Her YouTube stuff can be found behind those links. I would like to ask, do you have any questions? Please do ask questions, comment. If you have any, even if you don't have any questions, if you don't have questions, just comments. I always like nice comments to have, and I'll of course share those comments on the screen, unless you just specifically tell me not to. And Bertil will also be here watching these comments with me. But if I don't, it seems I'm not getting any questions right now. I'll be wrapping up the stream. and then I'll see you next time. See you soon, and I've had quite fun actually sharing this with you. Sharing all this interesting stuff with you. And I'll be going. Bertil and I will be going. Bye.